So people who tell you to not become a copywriter in 2025, they don't really care about you. All they want is to sell you their product, because every single person that I know who owns 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses, every single one of them have this skill, which is copywriting. Grab your popcorn and grab your coffee or whatever it is you're drinking, because today we're talking about why you should or you should not become a copywriter in 2025. On this platform and on Facebook and everywhere else, you'll see people say like, do not become a copywriter in 2024 and in 2025. But the thing is, what a lot of those people, whether gurus or whoever is, what they're missing is that copywriting is not a career. Copywriting is a skill. And it's quite an important skill, especially if you're somebody who's entrepreneurial minded, and maybe if somebody who has a large Instagram following, or if somebody who just wants to run their even own offers, if you want to sell courses. Now, the reason I say it's a very important skill is because every single person that I know who owns 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses, every single one of them have this skill, which is copywriting. That's how they started. And now they're running businesses. They know how to hire copywriters. They know what good copy looks like, and so forth and so on. Now, most people who will tell you do not become a copywriter, guess what they started with? Ooh, copywriting. All of them. You'll go and trace their, like years of, being in this sort of internet marketing, whatever. It doesn't really matter whether they started at 20, at 17, at 35, doesn't really matter. Every single one of them who tells you to not become a copywriter have started with copywriting, so that then they can sell you now more courses, get you into the programs and so forth and so on. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. In fact, I also have the courses in the program and everything else, but I don't sell the courses in the program. What I do offer is a shortcut, right? All of that aside, let's just put everything aside. Why do I say that learning copywriting is really good, and why do you see a lot of people who own businesses actually start with copywriting? Well, when you think about, what actually makes a business, right? You cannot have a business without a sale. With the interaction and transaction between services or goods, exchange for the money, blah, blah. Knowing that, we also know that copywriting is a salesmanship in writing. And so without sales, you cannot run a business, right? You can have an offer. You can be an offer owner. You can start a business in 24 hours, but without customers, you don't really have a business. That is a hobby. And so knowing this, mastering the art of copywriting is really, really important, because you gotta know how to sell your products and services, how to convince somebody to buy your products. You could have the best product in the world, but you have to convince people that is a good product, right? I know a lot of people who, copywriters specifically, who own, let's say, marketing agencies, right? But there's so many marketing agencies, right? You have to still, deliver a good service, and they do, and they, make 50K a month, but most of the clients come through word of mouth, right? Which is great. But if you want to make millions of dollars, you still have to be able to actually sell, show people why this is better than the other thing. Now, when people will say like, oh, like you shouldn't become a copywriter, blah, blah. Well, when you look at the, history of those people, right, who tell you, like 20 years ago, those who started 20 years ago, well, even back then, you could still put, like a sign, like I have this thing, click here, buy, and people would buy. But even then, for those people, 20 years ago, it took them 2, 3, 4, 5 years before they actually started making money. It took them time to learn. And what were they learning? Well, the skill of selling online, the salesmanship. That's what we're doing, right? You have people who started when they were like 15, 16, 17, 18. Again, it took them time to learn the skill of salesmanship. So now they can do other things, which brings me to the point that copywriting is not a career. It is a stepping stone skill. If you are entrepreneurial minded person, if you're somebody who wants to sell products online, if you're somebody who wants to own a business, what's going to happen when you become a quote-unquote copywriter, when you take an identity as a copywriter? You're going to be working with companies that are different sizes, 7 figures, 8 figures, 6 figures, 9 figures. And you're going to see what it is to run a business that makes 6 figures online versus what it is to run a business that makes 7 figures online versus that runs a business that is 8 and even 9 figures online, because those are different levels, right? But because you are getting paid to help somebody sell their products, to learn the copywriting, you're also getting paid basically to learn the school of business without having to go to bloody college. People spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the MBA, to get theory knowledge or theoretical knowledge. You can get paid thousands and thousands of dollars to learn how to sell through writing and also learn how it is to run a business. That's what you're getting paid for. And if you take, like, don't even take my word for it, right? When you look at the greatest people, the founders who have made millions and millions of dollars, for example, James Hill, a Canadian American railroad director, right? It took him 20 years. He worked really hard. He worked in the businesses that were directly related to railroad business. And then 20 years later, he took all of that knowledge and put it to start a business and found, the Great Northern Railroad, right? So that's one thing. Now take Jo Malone, for example. She was working under somebody who was running a skincare sort of studio, and she was learning how to make all of the creams and facials and all that stuff. She was getting paid to learn not only how to create those creams and other things, right? But or maybe it wasn't Jo Malone. Hold on, it was somebody else, I believe, or maybe it was Jo Malone. One of the other. I can't remember. No, I think it was Jo Malone. Yeah, definitely. So, and she was learning because I read her biography, and she was learning all of that stuff, right? That helped her then realize that she has actually really good nose for scents, right? And only then she started the business. So why would you jump right into the deep end without knowing anything, losing tons of money, losing tons of honestly confidence? Because when you start something and you put it on Facebook and you get 0 sales, guess what? Your confidence is going to derail and you're going to stop. So you're setting yourself up for complete failure. So people who tell you to not become a copywriter in 2025, they don't really care about you. All they want is to sell you their products. That's about it. But if you really want to be able to feed yourself, your family, today, tomorrow, and the future, nearest and the farthest, learning copywriting as a skill is going to do you way more than anything else. Because even if you want to start dropshipping, even with the AI, you still got to learn how to write copy, how to write the emails, the sales pages, the ads. Because the thing is, if AI was a thing, if it was, thing that was going to take over the entire, industry, if, not being able, not even needing copywriting as a skill in general, if that was a thing, why do the 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners come to me and to my students and ask us to write stuff for them? Like, if it wasn't important, people wouldn't be paying me money, right? But here's the thing. I still treat it as a stepping stone, the copywriting, because now writing for the skincare brands, I see what's working, what's not working. If I want to start a skincare company, I'm going to jump through, way lesser hoops because I know a few things about the ads, how much it costs and all the things, how to write the ads, and also, how to start the white label company and so forth and so on. If you want to start selling courses, I also work with people who were doing that, who were teaching people how to, selling courses and how to sell courses, right? All of that stuff. So it is quite important for you to understand that copywriting is not a career, right? It is a skill, a stepping stone skill. Now, think of it this way. When I was a personal trainer, I wanted to become a doctor. And so in order for me to do that, I had to go to college. Through those, years and being in college, I realized that actually I don't want to spend that much time on to sort of curing the symptoms. What I wanted to do more so was to actually prevent the disease and that sort of stuff. And so what I decided to do, I was like, well, let me switch my degree to kinesiology and health and exercise sciences. And I potentially would want to go to become a physical therapist, because in my mind I was like, well, it's probably going to help me quite a lot cheaper. But what I realized is that I actually did not want to do that either. But I still have a degree that is what I call a stepping stone. So if I decide one of those days, which I don't think is ever going to happen, but if I ever decide that one of those days I want to go to med school, or I want to go and become an anesthesiologist, or anything medical field related, I already have a degree with the, like higher, whatever, cum laude, GPA, whatnot, which will allow me to then potentially go, to better colleges and so forth and so on, right? So that's how I think about copywriting. Now, I was a copywriter started in 2020, right? In 2022, I already had my offer. Yes, it took me 2 years to learn the art of copy, to learn how it is, to own an offer, how it is to run a business, right? And then I started. And even then, it didn't prepare me for all of the headaches that come with owning a business. Now, I'm not saying you should not own a business. I'm not saying you should not sell your courses. But what I'm saying is that if you know absolutely nothing, and you sort of kind of, like thinking like, well, maybe, I should start running, like my offer, or maybe I should create an offer, or maybe I should start courses. There are people who cannot do that. People who launch something and it flops. And I was one of those people when I had a fitness offer. And, what you want to do is learn the skill of copywriting. I'm going to say it multiple times over this video so you can actually see and understand that copywriting is a very important skill. So if you are somebody who wants to start a business, if you're somebody who has a, large following on Instagram, or if you're somebody who's a YouTuber, or really if you're just somebody who wants to make money on a side, copywriting is the best thing freaking ever. If your goal is to make millions and millions of dollars in 2025, sure, don't become a copywriter. Do not take on the identity of just a copywriter, aka somebody who provides services to other business owners, because technically speaking, you won't be able to make millions and millions of dollars. But if your goal is to make millions of dollars year after year after year, if your goal is to provide for a family, if your goal is to be able to feed your family, no matter what happens in the world, no matter who the president is, no matter who's bombing who, you would be better off learning and mastering the skill of copywriting, because it is something that's going to feed you and your family for a very, very long time. On that end, be sure to subscribe, because on this channel we're talking everything about marketing and copywriting, which hopefully is going to help you to master the skill much faster.